Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America and also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France, and of course you good old boys in Africa. You know we love the Big C tribe. Big C, we love them up in Canada, but there's nobody we love more than you good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, I tell you today, I was as giddy as an 8-year-old boy at Christmas watching a space launch down out of Cape Canaveral.
Oh, yeah.
Elon Musk,
Yeah.
sent the largest rocket, other than the Apollo rockets, into space today,
Wow.
Charlton.
Yeah.
And after that, he launched one of his own personal Tesla roasters into space that could orbit up to 20,000 years, they say, if nothing goes wrong.
Wow.
And so to see the space race starting all over again here in the U.S., and mainly from private, donations,
Yeah.
Charlton, private investment going into it, but just to sit there and feel and see the roar of those giant rockets, Charlton.
Yeah.
And not only that, 2 of the boosters landed back at Cape Canaveral, Charlton. They were remote controlled back in the Cape Canaveral. So when you think about the technology
Yeah.
that has advanced in space exploration
Yeah.
since the Apollo mission and really the Mercury missions
Yeah.
that, took Americans into space originally, Charlton, it's like I said, I felt like a giddish 8-year-old boy today at Christmas.
Yeah, I tell you what, there's nothing wrong than feeling like a young 8-year-old boy, but today is actually a beautiful February the 6th, 2018, in the land of the free, in the home of the brave, and there's so much going on in the world of sports and politics. And you know how, I know why Elon Musk lost that spaceship, Big C, because we've been saying that Big C Sports is the #1 sports show in the universe. And he thinks he has to go to outer space to hear it, Big C. Is that why he lost the spaceship, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, you never know what he has tuned in on the radio station up there, Charlton, but, he's chasing us around in the universe right now.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, well, we'll take it on. We'll do the Big C Sports Show on one of his spaceships one of these days, Big C. So many things happening in this beautiful country of ours. And I do want to say that this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. You can drive a car or you can drive a Cadillac. I do want to touch a little bit on the space exploration, Big C. We talk about Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe. And we believe that words go all over the solar system, all over the galaxy, all over the universe. But think about this great country that we live in, and of course all over the world, people are catching up. But what's to say about American ingenuity? And I remember when Kennedy was talking about putting a man on the moon, and now we have people flying into space almost like people take vacations, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, with what Musk and his company has done, Charlton, SpaceX,
Yep.
is innovation. This is not run by NASA or the United States government. This is by private, funding.
Enterprise, yeah.
From Musk, the creator of Tesla.
Yeah.
And so this is a guy who has great vision. And you think about his core of engineers and employees, Charlton, that assisted in this event occurring today. This shows that what American do power is, Charlton.
Yeah.
Not someone sitting behind a desk in a big office, flatulating lies all day long. But somebody who's putting pencil to pen and ideas to the computer and making it reality.
Yeah.
Without telling someone some falsehood or saying it's fake news.
Yeah.
This was reality today. And you would think that, the leadership of our country would have been behind this, making statements about how Americans have advanced technology.
Yeah.
But we hear nothing from the leadership of the United States, of these private investments. You're always touting what private industry will do in America, but this is private industry that you know nothing about.
Yep.
And you cannot even make a comment on it.
Well, that's because some people don't believe in science. So if you don't believe in science, how can you get a spaceship to fly up to outer space, Big C? So obviously some people don't want to, they want to pretend that it did not happen, but I'm impressed with the ingenuity of our young people and old people too. I know that space flight will be a thing of reality probably in the next 50 years, maybe 50 to 100 years. You've had people flying into outer space the same way they have people on airplanes. I remember they used to have that European, that jet that was called it had wings on it. And
the Concorde.
The Concorde, yes. And I remember my father was telling me about the Concorde and how people marveled at how that thing could fly from the United States to Europe in just about 3 hours, Big C. And maybe even less than that. But everybody knows that technology, and we talk about athletes all the time learning more than just how to lift weights. This is why math and science are so important. Big C, talk about the fact that I know there was a kid that played down at the University of Tennessee, a quarterback, African-American kid, just last year, I believe, and he studied aeronautics, and he talked about flying and how to build airplanes and all that good stuff. Why is that so important that we don't leave our inner city kids behind when we talk about it, Big C? Your thoughts?
That would be Joshua Dobbs, Charlton. He's a backup quarterback with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I believe, third, fourth round draft pick.
Yeah.
You know, who made the Steelers roster. And when you talk about the intelligence of a young man, and, you know, they always talk about someone's athletic ability. You know, you had people, you know, broadcasting his college games talking about he was a mobile quarterback, that he could run. You know, very, very rarely did they talk about the intelligence that he possessed.
Yeah.
Your friends, you know, Mel Kiper never talked about the cerebralness of this quarterback, who was the most intelligent quarterback coming out of college football last year.
Yeah.
When you talk about a quarterback that could process anything,
yep.
that was Joshua Dobbs out of the University of Tennessee. He may not have been surrounded with the best talent at Tennessee, Charlton, but he was the most cerebral and
yep.
talented quarterback coming out of college football last year.
Yeah, yeah.
But, you know, when you look at your naysayers, they don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about his processing skills. You know, everyone wanted to beat down Deshaun Watson, saying, well, he doesn't process well.
Yeah.
But no one talked about how well Joshua Dobbs processed.
Yeah.
You know, how being an aeronautical engineer in college and graduated in 3 years, Charlton.
Yeah.
Not 4, in 3. He played his senior year as a grad student.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you talk about the ability of athletes, and even African-American athletes, as they've been touted for so many decades, is that they just can't play the quarterback position in the NFL because they can't process.
All that
garbage. We see that over and over every year, talking about, well, this guy, you know, processes better. He has better upside. You know, they don't talk about what a guy can do right now.
Yeah.
They talk about the long-term potential of somebody who never develops it. And that's what we have coming out of college right now. When you look at the top 3 quarterbacks that they talked about, Donald, Rosen, and Allen, neither one of those guys will be the first quarterback taken in the draft, Charles.
Yeah, and you think about they keep pushing Allen, who came out of Fireball High School in Central California, a farming community, and went on to Wyoming. And if he makes it, that's great. And everybody, Baker Mayfield, they all have the chance, because if you're going to be looked at, you do have a chance to go on and make it at the next level. So we wish everyone success. But I'm so proud of the young men and women in this country that are focused on going into space exploration, and whether they go into media or whether they go into business, that's the final frontier. I think, who was that good old boy, Captain Kirk? He played Captain James T. Kirk and Star Trek. And I remember how you think about William Shatner. I knew you know his name. You guys probably went on the Enterprise a couple of times yourself, Big C. In fact, they used to play Big C Sports on the Enterprise, Big C. But I think about the young generation and how when I was a young boy growing up and seeing Star Trek, and the mind can say, well, how do people fly into outer space, and how do you get on a spaceship? Beam me up, Scotty. And we had Spock, the Vulcan, that was also a biracial child, I guess a bi-earthling child. He also had an earthling mother and a Vulcan parent and father. And now we have Elon Musk taking spaceships and flying them into outer space and satellites, etc., as if people go on vacation. I just think it's so much that captures the imagination. I think it was George Lucas that created the Star Wars trilogy, and now we have a new movie coming out with Solo, who wants to go into the academy to become a Starfleet, Jedi, Big C. Just talk about that imagination. It's not too far off from the future, the way we talked about 2001: A Space Odyssey back in the day, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, we look at space exploration just like we look at the young kids wanting to be sports athletes, Charlton. How they dream in their youth. They have parents putting posters up in their room, giving them jerseys, giving them sports paraphernalia. And that's what happens when you look at a young engineer. He's in the science, he's in the mathematics, and that's what develops him. And it shows that athletes can do that, like I said, with Joshua Dobbs, a 3-year graduate at the University of Tennessee, that aeronautical engineering, that was his mainstay, Charlton. But we've seen so many great athletes that have been involved in mathematics and science over the years that have become doctors.
Yeah.
And so when you look at that perspective, that dumb jock theory just doesn't hold weight any
not
longer.
anymore.
Because when you look at what these young men have accomplished, and young ladies, Charlton, over time, they become some of the great, mental and physical leaders in America.
Yeah.
As far as how they've contributed to American society.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I also want to just bring up, before we get into a few of the sports things we're going to talk about, there was a movie called Hidden Figures, and it was about the silent the silent black Americans, the women that were involved in the NASA and space exploration. And I just want to bring that up because it's a movie that everyone should see, just the same way people should see the documentary 13th. And it gives hope to our young people. And Big C, how we always say there's no excuse for domestic violence of any kind, and if any woman's in trouble, just call 911. Well, and we're in this, this Me Too society, and we got to end all that garbage. I'm so proud that we have young women of all cultures that are able to get on that thinking cap and think that I can do this too. And because when people of color have been a part of the space exploration, oftentimes have been marginalized or just kept in the dark, Big C. What would that mean to young people all over the world to see what Elon Musk is doing? We have so much hope for the next generation, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, the things what Elon Musk are doing, Charlton, are not hidden, as it were, with the African-American participants in the NASA Mercury and Gemini program, Charlton, in the late 50s and early 60s, that allowed those space capsules to go up into space, Charlton, and be able to be brought back safely. Without being known to the American public, everyone thought everyone at NASA was white. And that was a white man's only job. But yet these African-American women were the key engineers in NASA at that time that helped NASA escalate to the level that it did. But never got the accolades, and everything that they did, just like many other African-Americans in history, Charlton, was hidden. The computer is an amazing thing because you can no longer just redact things on paper. Because the computer has made everything accessible. So over time, more and more of history has come out about African Americans' contribution, not just in the world of science and mathematics, Charlton, but even in the innovation of sport and politics in America. How they have allowed America and assisted America to grow, Charlton.
I appreciate that, especially Black History Month being here. So again, we appreciate everyone who's trying to grow the human spirit and make sure that we're not afraid to even go out into outer space. And again, with Musk, you can follow Big C Sports on Earth. You don't always have to get a spaceship to go out and follow the show, Big C. Also, when we talk about young people and people wanting to grow up and be something great, we look at the Super Bowl, Big C, and I know there's this talk about whether it's Carson Wentz and should he be considered a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Well, he didn't play in the game. Now, he didn't play in the game any more than some other players that were on the roster did not play in the game. I want to get your thoughts on that. Is it really important? I think it should go to the guys who played, not the participation trophy. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at the history of the Super Bowl, how many quarterbacks have had an opportunity to win the Super Bowl and not be the player that has led the team through the regular season? That has happened on many, many occasions, Charlton. More than people would recognize, and especially with all the young broadcasters now that are in their 30s and 40s out there that weren't even born when the Super Bowl was starting to be played, that would not even recognize that history. But let's go back to Super Bowl IV, Charlton. Would Johnny Unitas be considered the winner of Super Bowl IV when the Colts won that game against the Dallas Cowboys? He started the game. He was knocked out with a rib injury. The game was finished by Earl Morrall. The game was won by Jim O'Brien with a 33-yard field goal. Who was the winning quarterback of the Super Bowl, Charlton? Was it the starting quarterback or was it the quarterback who finished the game?
I think it'd be the quarterback that finished,
These are eternal questions.
Yeah.
So both of them are still considered winners, Charlton.
Yeah.
But let's go a couple of years later. There's been one perfect season in the NFL, Charlton.
Yeah.
One perfect season. The guy who won that Super Bowl as a starting quarterback did not play during the regular season. The guy who got him to the Super Bowl started at 12 games, Charlton, to keep that perfect season going. Once again, Charlton, that was Earl Morrall. He did not get to start in the Super Bowl. He started Bob Greasy. So who really was the Super Bowl winning quarterback? You could say that Bob Greasy was, who led the Dolphins to their lowest point total of the season in that game.
Yeah.
Even though they won.
14-7, I believe.
Earl Morrall took them to 12 consecutive victories, Charlton.
Yeah, and that's something that football has always looked at, and they always want to use their prodigal quarterback, the one they want to be America's darling. And, you know, there's if you go and play, you got to look at the stats now. I think they follow stats now in analytics, Big C, now much more than they did back in the day. But you break down everyone's performance and see how they did. And if you help your team score, you help your team make a tackle, whatever you did, if you got on the field, you're part of that. But we know there's always going to be the favorite person that they choose in that. And that's important. I go back to there's a football game, another Super Bowl that was played down in Miami when San Francisco came from behind and they beat Cincinnati. It was 1989 Super Bowl. It was a 20-16 game. And I remember that Jerry Rice was a guy that was considered, you know, the all-pro, the best player, but it was John Taylor that caught the winning touchdown. But the great thing about that, even though Jerry Rice was considered and is now considered the best wide receiver of all time, I don't think anyone can dispute he's the best receiver in the universe, but it was also his counterpart, Taylor, that caught the winning touchdown. But Jerry still blocked. He still ran good pass routes, Big C. And he was a part of that touchdown because he drew attention away from Taylor. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you know, Jerry Rice got the MVP of the game.
Yeah.
As a receiver. John Taylor went, you know, gets the game-winning touchdown.
Yeah.
No one remembers John Taylor as the winning touchdown. They
Yeah.
remember Jerry Rice as the MVP,
Yeah.
you know, setting records for receptions and yardage. But John Taylor won the game. So did he get consideration for that? No, he didn't. You know, he was overlooked throughout that.
Yeah.
Let me give you another scenario. When the Dallas Cowboys won their first Super Bowl
Yeah.
against the Miami Dolphins,
Yeah.
Chuck Howley, a linebacker, first defensive MVP in the Super Bowl. He didn't get credit for winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Roger Staubach did.
Yeah.
And Greg Martin, they got credit for winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Jump a few years later when the Dallas Cowboys beat up on the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
When Harvey Martin and Randy White were co-defensive MVPs of the game as two defensive linemen.
1978.
Roger Staubach was a starting quarterback. They didn't get credit for that.
No.
You know, Roger Staubach won the Super Bowl, not the MVPs. And so when you look at the MVPs in a Super Bowl, Charlton,
Yeah.
they don't always get credit for winning the game unless they're a quarterback.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they're the Super Bowl winner. Those defensive linemen didn't get credit as Super Bowl winners. Those linebackers
Yeah.
didn't get credit as Super Bowl winners. Go back even in a short time in history.
Yeah.
Malcolm Butler, who did not play in this past Super Bowl, Charlton,
Yeah.
when he stepped in as a rookie, made a game-saving interception at the goal line.
Yep.
He wasn't considered the Super Bowl winner. Tom Brady was.
Isn't that something?
You know, it's amazing how you want to crown somebody.
Yeah.
The guy who made the biggest play of the game, who cemented you a Super Bowl victory,
Yep.
was not considered the Super Bowl winner.
Yeah.
So it's all about what Madison Avenue and Disneyland wants
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
come to the main street of Disney World.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's one of those things that you can't put your finger on and say, okay, this is accurate.
Yeah.
Because when they say that Carson Wentz is not a Super Bowl winner, there's 52 previous Super Bowls, Charlton.
Yeah.
Each one of those have at least one backup quarterback on the roster.
Yeah.
And I have several friends with Super Bowl rings that never took a snap
Yeah.
in a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Only pass they threw was in warm-ups,
Yep.
okay?
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
And held clipboards.
Yeah.
So are they not Super Bowl winners when they walk around with their Super Bowl rings on their fingers? There's guys that on the practice roster, and think about this, everybody that's on the Philadelphia Eagles practice roster,
Yeah.
and all of you people with Google, go and Google the Philadelphia Eagles roster because they'll have the practice roster,
Yep.
and they'll have the injured reserve. Let's look at this one individual that everybody knows who's on the Eagles roster.
Yeah.
Jason Peters, all-pro left offensive tackle.
Yeah.
Blew out his knee about 7 weeks into the season.
Yeah.
One of the best offensive linemen in the NFL.
Yeah.
Is he a Super Bowl champion or is he just a guy with a ring?
Yeah.
That's how you have to look at that question.
Yeah. And even when you bring that up, they'll say a Super Bowl winning coach. And we go back to some of the Super Bowls that they had Parcells, but Belichick was on the defense. You had Buddy Ryan. You know, his defensive savviness but then you have Ditka. There's always someone that's going to get more credit than the others, but everyone knows that defense wins championships. Even in the Eagles and the Patriots game, I look at the fact that it was a strip sack on Tom Brady that caused a fumble that really cemented that game with about 2 minutes, just about 2 minutes to go, over 2 minutes to go, and that cemented that game. And no one really knows much about that player unless they go back and Google. Or what do you do when you have a video phone? You go back and look at videotape, Big C. They can go back, and the young people know what I'm talking about. They can go back to YouTube or whatever it is and see that player's name. He did not get the MVP of the game. I know Foles got it, and maybe deservedly so. But if the Eagles had lost that game, then Tom Brady would have gotten the MVP because he threw for over 505 yards. And you could say maybe he should have gotten the MVP. But just because he fumbled, I think it's ironic. But recall the tuck rule back in the old stadium in Foxborough before they built the new Gillette Stadium. And I think it was Charles Woodson that was blitzing off the corner, and he hit Tom Brady as he was pulling the ball back up in the air. And they said the ball was going forward. I got this TV. It's like a. You can slow it down. You can see what happens. And there's no way he was throwing the football. And Tom Brady knew that because he walked off the field with his head down. No one knows that when they said, "Hey, that's an incomplete pass." He did not even advocate that it was an incomplete pass. And they took some time out and they gave the ball back to New England, and that's where the tuck rule was like emphasized. Isn't it ironic that what could have been his last Super Bowl, they lose it on what could have been considered the tuck? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's ironic how the world revolves.
Yeah.
That what we've seen once will come back again.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things that it's hard for sports people to digest that the Patriots lost this game and that the Eagles won this game. But, this was a team that came out with the utmost of confidence.
Yeah.
And Brady's, he was the one under pressure, not Nick Foles.
Yeah.
Nick Foles was playing with house money ever since he took over starting quarterback.
Yeah.
So there was really nothing wrong that he could do at any point. So he was out there playing relaxed.
Yeah.
You never saw any tension on him. And I love to listen to the brother in his interview talking about, well, the stage is too big for him.
No, it wasn't.
Is he going to fold like a piece of paper? Those are all the naysayers and negative people that don't want a guy to succeed.
Yeah.
But they don't say that, Charlton.
Yeah.
They'll say some acronym that doesn't fit the young man.
Yeah.
They don't know him. It's like, here it is. Everybody's talking about now. Well, Brady's now 5-3 in the Super Bowls.
Yeah.
It would have been better not to go to the Super Bowl and lose number 3 than it would have been to go and lose number 3.
Yeah.
That's like saying the guy got a steak dinner over here for me.
Yeah.
A 24-inch porterhouse.
Yeah.
Nice baked potato. Some broccoli raw on the side.
Yeah.
And there's a bologna sandwich over here.
Yeah.
It's cold.
Yeah.
Nothing on the bread.
Right.
Which one would you rather have? That porterhouse is the Super Bowl, okay?
Yeah.
That bologna sandwich is those 30 other quarterbacks sitting home watching the game.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
That's what that is. But think about this. We talk about LeBron in comparison to Jordan, okay? Being the greatest basketball player of all time.
Yeah.
LeBron James has won, 3 NBA titles?
Yep.
He's been to the finals 8 times.
Yeah.
8 times. Tom Brady's been to the finals 8 times.
Yeah.
Brady's 5-3.
Yep.
LeBron's 3-5.
Yeah.
No one talks negative about LeBron's 3-5 in the finals. You ever think about that?
Yeah, that's true.
That LeBron James is 3-5 in NBA finals, which is a team sport, not an individual sport.
Yeah.
But yet everyone blames everyone around LeBron for LeBron losing.
Yeah.
But in Brady's scenario, in 3 times, everyone has blamed Brady for losing.
Yeah.
Even though Brady has continuously had record performances in these losses, Charlton.
Yeah.
But he is blamed for the loss. No one else.
That's a great.
And I can't remember the last that. Well, he tried to make a tackle last in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And we saw how that went. He gave up 6.
Right. Yeah. Well, when you think about that, you look at that AFC East, and I look at Dan Marino, who's still considered one of the greatest quarterbacks ever. He had a quick release. He was out of Pittsburgh, and he was America's darling quarterback. And you think about, he didn't go to not one Super Bowl. They both played.
No, he went to one.
Well, they lost. You're right.
The San Francisco 49ers at Stanford Stadium, I believe, about 84, somewhere around there.
Yeah, they lost to the 49ers. So he didn't win any Super Bowls. He went to one, didn't win anything. But he's still considered one of the greatest quarterbacks when they talk about the great Dan Marino. And they don't bring up, well, he lost the Super Bowl to Joe Montana and the 49ers. And Brady's been there, like you said, 8 times. So
well, think about Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly has 4 losses, Charlton.
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
And no one's saying, well, he was a bad NFL quarterback. They blame it on the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. And I think they had Thurman Thomas in the backfield with that team. They had Bruce Smith on the defensive side. They had so many great players, but it still goes back to the Bills they lost the 4 Super Bowls, but they got there 4 times. And it's something about the AFC East. You look at the Jets back in the day when they went on to the Super Bowl, Broadway Joe, and they had to win, and he called out. Think about it, Joe called out a guaranteed victory, and now people are saying
you either gonna win or lose.
Yeah,
so why would you say you're gonna lose?
He's 50%
so if
right.
You win, all of a sudden you're a genius.
Yeah, he's 50% right.
Now think about this. There's been 52 Super Bowls, isn't it, Charlton? Yeah. And so there's been 104 starting quarterbacks going into the Super Bowls, and they've all said that they're going to win. But Joe Namath is the only genius in the bunch.
And they put that out there like, hey, Joe guaranteed a victory. There's a lot of people that guarantee, but you don't always get to host that trophy at the end of the day.
Guaranteed. Think about it. Muhammad Ali guaranteed victories all the time. Not only that, he told you what round he was going to put somebody down. So that little crap that Joe Namath said back in '69, Charlton. He stole that from Muhammad Ali. Okay, guaranteed a victory. Joe Namath said all throughout the season he never guaranteed a victory. But all of a sudden, a reporter puts it in his mic, be like Ali. Guarantee a victory.
I tell you what, I want to get your contrast on that too, because we talk about great Super Bowl performances. Now, Foles had a great Super Bowl, and in fact, his Super Bowl performance was better than Peyton Manning's last Super Bowl out in San Francisco when they beat the Carolina Panthers. I don't think Peyton threw for 200 yards in that game, but their defense was the NFL's #1 defense that year, led by Von Miller and Aqib Talib, and they had just some stout players on defense that caused 2 turnovers by the great Cam Newton, and they went on to win a Super Bowl. But still, they crowned that it was Peyton Manning's team because he did not make a mistake in that game. I remember that's the same year that he wore the boot in Denver. He broke his neck and they put a boot on his foot. Big Z, I don't know what doctor they had working on that surgery, but remember that he had the neck injury and they put the boot on his foot, Big Z. But it wasn't so bad that he couldn't come back and play in the Super Bowl. And just give me your thoughts on how it almost seemed like it was staged for Manning to go out on top. He's been so much for the NFL as far as being their image kid, and to help them win a Super Bowl at the end of the day. Did that seem a little bit staged? A lot of people still say that was not the best Super Bowl because it just seemed like it was played out for someone to walk away with a championship. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that was one of the most anticlimactic Super Bowls ever. And when you look at the performance that Gary Anderson had at running back, Charlton, who dominated the game offensively for Denver, and as well as that Denver defense played. You think about them scoring touchdowns. They put as many points on the board as the offense did. But yet you had Manning that was named the MVP of the game, even though the defense dominated the game. You could have went back to the scenario that you saw with the Dallas Cowboys twice having defensive players as MVP, but the NFL wanted this to be his swan song. Once he equaled his brother in Super Bowl wins with 2, equaling the Eli. They say, what a better way to let the guy go out other than making him MVP. And making it seem like he was this jack of all trades in the Super Bowl. Yet he couldn't throw a ball over 20 yards down the field.
I remember we were doing a show on that. You brought that point up, and it came to fruition in the Super Bowl. And again, that game was won by the Denver Broncos in 2016, 24-10 over Carolina, which at that time was one of the highest scoring teams in the league, and just shocked at the fact that they could not put a lot of points on the board in that game. But I want to bring back something that you just triggered my mind. You tend to do that a lot. I'm thinking about Broadway Joe and how he guaranteed that victory when they were playing the Colts, Big C. And I look at that was a low-scoring football game, and maybe a game you look at a 16-7 game, nothing too exciting whatsoever for a guy that's considered the league's best quarterback at the time. And I look at Doug Williams, how Doug Williams what they did to the Denver Broncos and lift them up in the Super Bowl, and I think about how he threw for 5 touchdowns in, I believe, the second quarter, and they went on to blow out the Denver Broncos, and he never got the type of acclaim that we've talked about with other quarterbacks who couldn't even lead their team to 2 touchdowns in the game, Big C. Just again, as an African-American, and seeing that dominance by Doug Williams, he also had to dominate the social media that was anti-black, let's just be honest about that. But for them to beat up on Denver and John Elway, America's prodigal child and prodigal quarterback, the way they did, does that sting? Did that sting back in the day, and does it sting even less now, though, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, no, Charlton, it stung then because the media was all behind Elway going into this game. That this was Elway's Super Bowl to win.
Yeah.
That he was the best quarterback going into the game with the best tools. Doug Williams wasn't having that, nor was Bobby Betson as a coach or the rest of the Washington Redskins, who had a tremendous defense.
Yeah.
And they had a great set of scat receivers that they just ran all over the field with, Charlton.
Yeah.
And he inserted a rookie free agent running back, Tim Brown, who just set a Super Bowl record for rushing yards in the game. That was the second time in Redskins history that they had a running back that set a Super Bowl rushing record. John Riggins had done it against the Miami Dolphins down in Pasadena.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, Timmy Brown does it against the Denver Broncos in San Diego.
Yeah.
But this is the genius of an organization, Charlton, recognizing what was weak about their opponent.
Yeah.
Doug Williams, they said, you got the big arm. They don't have the speed in the Denver secondary.
Yeah.
Let's just go deep. Don't worry about them.
Yeah.
And that's what they did, Charlton, all day long. But, Doug Williams never got any acclaim for dominating and winning that Super Bowl. He was basically ostracized from the NFL after that point. No one would sign him.
Yeah.
Now, you think about if John Elway had gone out and had a performance in the Super Bowl instead of Doug Williams in that Super Bowl in San Diego.
Oh, my goodness.
What do you think his contract in Madison Avenue value would have been that following week, Charlton?
Yeah, and that's something that you bring up, and I'm glad you do, because we got to keep reminding people that this league hasn't always done the right thing. It's not just Colin Kaepernick not being able to get a job. There's a history of it, and it's predominantly a black league, but that doesn't matter when you don't have the power. I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. And for every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer leagues, when you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you at 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. Going back to what Doug Williams went through, and we talked earlier about the great Warren Moon and what he went through. He won a Rose Bowl for Don James, the late John James, at the University of Washington in the Pac-10 at that time, and people would not give him a chance to play a quarterback. He reminds me so much of the stature of Cam Newton. And I know Warren Moon's doing some radio work right now with the Seattle Seahawks up in the Great Northwest. I remember him having a conversation with Cam Newton when the Cam Newton came out to San Francisco and the Super Bowl against the Denver Broncos. And they talked about how to comport yourself as African-American men. Now, no matter how much we like Nick Foles and how much he's done to overcome, almost walking away from the game, being a backup, getting a chance, it pales in comparison with what a black starter did, and they got totally ignored after they won a Super Bowl. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I'll go back even further than that. When I think about Randall Cunningham, who set an NFL record for yards and points in a season with the Minnesota Vikings when Gary Anderson missed the field goal. Randall Cunningham couldn't get a job after that as a starting NFL quarterback.
Isn't that something?
He moved on. Here it is. You set all the records that you could set in the NFL, scoring and all. He had a great offense with Randy Moss, Chris Carter, Robert Smith at running back, a tremendous offensive line and defense.
Yeah.
They lose on a field goal miss that Anderson misses against the Falcons. Falcons go on and lose to the Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Give Don Elway his first victory, Charlton.
Yeah.
But this was a young man that you say, you got to figure out, how was he not able to re-sign with another NFL team?
Yeah.
After setting all these records in a single season, and all of a sudden people figure that he can't play.
Yeah.
You got to realize when he even came out of college, Charlton, he was the first quarterback taken in the draft, even though he was only taken in the second round by the Philadelphia Eagles and Buddy Ryan.
Yep.
But he was the first quarterback taken in the draft when he came out of Cal State Fullerton.
Wow.
But not Cal State, but UNLV where he came out of.
UNLV, yeah.
But you know, when you think about the perils that he had to go through his career,
yeah,
and then just like with Doug Williams, when you have the best season of your pro career,
yeah,
no one figures that you're worthy to be re-signed any longer.
Yeah, and you think about that. I just think that's important because people want to say, well, I see Nick Foles going off to Disneyland, and I know Doug Williams is working with the Washington Redskins now, but Nick Foles didn't throw 5 touchdown passes in the Super Bowl. I mean, I watched it a couple times since the ending of it, at least the highlights, and I didn't see 5 touchdown passes. And I even go back to Eric McNair, the late Steve McNair, with the Tennessee Titans, and how dominant he was out of Alcorn State, played in the NFL, took his team to the Super Bowl, and they came up just short to the St. Louis Rams at that time. Now, I look at that organization. They've had Vince Young, who set a Rose Bowl record against Michigan and USC back-to-back in the 2004 and 2005 Rose Bowl, accumulated over 800 yards in total offense by himself, okay, in the Rose Bowl against USC and also Michigan the year before that. And I think he was 36-19 in the NFL as a starting quarterback and can't get a job, but he reminds me like a larger version of Steve McNair. And now I look at Mariota, who's also playing for that organization, Big C, and they seem like he's the same guy that Vince Young was, just a little bit smaller and not as fast, but still getting that opportunity. Big C, that make any sense to you?
Well, Charlton, it's that minority curse that you have as quarterback in the NFL. That, you know, it's hard to figure out, and it's not hard to figure out.
It's not hard.
It's almost like the league doesn't want to lose control of a position.
Yeah.
When we look at college football, the farm league for the NFL.
Yep.
And we look around and see how many minority quarterbacks that play so well at that level. And I'll go back to Deshaun Watson last year when your friend Mel Kiper said he doesn't process well.
Yeah.
He has a slow release. He holds the ball too long.
Yeah.
Yet all of a sudden he gets it, and the guy that they said was a surefire franchise quarterback, Mitch Trubisky, you know, never threw for more than 250 yards in an NFL game.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson set records week after week while he was healthy.
Yeah.
But your friend said the other guy was a franchise quarterback and Deshaun Watson was a reach.
Yeah.
But I'll go back to his college coach, Dabo Swinney.
Yeah.
Passing on Deshaun would be like passing on Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Which the Portland Trail Blazers did when they had Clyde Drexler, where they said they had no need for Jordan to be on that same roster.
Clyde the Glide, yeah.
So, you know, when you look at your buddies who are all these experts on television talking about these various players, what they have to offer and what they don't have to offer. But the one thing all these guys have in common, and young ladies that are, you know, advocating or belittling these players, Charlton, they never wore a jock.
Ain't that something? And we know that. And we got to change the perception of who can play and who can't, and just stick with the numbers. We always say Google whatever we say, and I hope that every sports show and every commentator will start saying Google what we tell you. Even though they have a huge support, you know, what they call research staff and all that stuff, and producers and feeding stuff into their ear, at least ask people to Google what you say. Big C, I do want to touch on a few more things in the world of sports, and this is not a funny thing, but I do wonder, do guys know how to get alarms? We were talking about football. Rob Gronkowski, and I guess his house was broken into over in New England, and I guess that just happened today. And I also look at, who was that guy, Yasiel Puig for the L.A. Dodgers. He had his home broken into.
His house was broken into in the World Series last year.
Now, can you?
$50,000, actually $150,000 in jewelry.
Yeah.
But the first thing I got to say, what you doing $150,000 in jewelry now?
Yeah.
And you have no World Series ring.
No World Series ring. And Julio Jones, his house wasn't broken into, but there's someone, I guess they still haven't found that ring in the lake for a $5,000 reward for a $150,000 earring, biggest thing. But the thing is with athletes, it happens on the days that they're in the biggest game of the universe, of the sports universe, and I'm not making light of it. I'm just saying that oftentimes people that steal from athletes are people that know them, Big C, people that know that they're at the Super Bowl, Big C thoughts.
Well, you know, how many people know where these guys live? That's number one, Charlton. It's not like you're sitting there and you can Google the guy's address.
Right.
You know,
Right.
So generally when these type of robberies take place, there's somebody who's had intimate knowledge of you.
Yeah.
Everybody knew that he was going to be out of town for a week.
Yeah.
And the day before the Super Bowl, the day of the Super Bowl were the times that you knew he definitely would not be in the house.
Yeah.
Just like with Yasiel, you could turn on the TV, the game's about to start. You know he wasn't going to be at home.
Yeah.
So when you look at these athletes, alarm system or not,
yeah,
these are people that know them,
yeah,
that have been in the house before, because they don't ransack the houses, Charlton. They go directly to where they need to go to.
And they call you bro. They call you bro instead of your name.
Yeah, but you know them well. You sit down and had a couple of brewskis with each other. Okay?
Yeah.
So when these athletes get robbed by their friends or associates, you know, don't call it a robbery.
Well, I tell you, there's this thing called gambling. And I know how the NBA wants to get 1% of the profits out of Las Vegas. That's not going to happen. You're easy to get someone to give you a wife down in Las Vegas before you give you some money. That's just, I've heard about those stories too, Big C. So hopefully they'll get an alarm. I think even Shaq is advertising for some alarm. And hopefully they'll keep it, you know, check your friends when they come to your house. That's all I got to tell you, Rob Gronkowski, and also Yasiel Puig. Hopefully you get some of your stuff back, but we doubt it. And I know that that's something that people got to stay safe, especially for everyone who's not rich and famous. It's also good to have an alarm on your system, because you never know. It's usually the people that you bring into the house that say, hey, how much jewelry you have hanging around the house just sitting on the counter, and sometimes it comes up missing when you're out playing your championship game, Big C. So that's crazy. I do want to touch on something that happens in the world of baseball, and we'll get your thoughts on basketball in a bit. But the baseball season, you know, spring training starts up in a couple months. A lot of people go down to Arizona. They'll go down to Florida. And the Giants, I look at Barry Bonds. I know people say Willie Mays is the greatest San Francisco Giant of all time. But Willie Mays never set the home run record. It hit, 760 home runs, 761 home runs. Could have been a lot more than that had people pitched the ball to Barry Bonds. I don't care what people say about the era of was he juicing or was he not juicing. Half the league was doing something. And I want to get your thoughts on the Giants wanting to retire his jersey this season. Does that mean that the Baseball Hall of Fame will next put his name in the rafters? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you would like to see that he's worthy of being there. Now, you got to realize the era that Barry Bonds was playing in, 75% of the players during that era, Charlton, was some type of substance.
Oh, yeah.
Even the guys who've been elected to the Hall of Fame from that era was on some type of substance. You can't walk around and say that only 5% of the players were not clean.
Yeah.
You chose to villainize whoever you want if you were in the media.
Yeah.
And you stay that way. And when you look at majority of the players, especially minorities, you look at Sammy Sosa, you look at Barry Bonds, these were guys that were breaking records that were hollow white records at that time in baseball.
Yeah.
That should have never been broken as far as these baseball writers are concerned.
Yeah.
Babe Ruth's record should have never been broken, but Hank had already broken.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about Maris hitting 60 home runs back-to-back seasons, Sammy Sosa broke that.
Yep.
You know, himself. But these are African Americans. You know, Barry Bonds with the single-season home run record.
Yeah.
You know, after it had already been broke, he broke it. You know,
again.
Took it to a new level.
Yeah.
So when you think about this, these were these alleged baseball purist writers that said these were hollow records that should not be broken.
Yep.
They should stay within the white race because that was the original part of Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
That minorities weren't originally involved in the game.
Yeah.
And so they should not own these records.
Yeah.
They should be held by these former white players. And that's how society has never changed, Charlton, over time.
Yeah.
Is that they still want to believe that what someone accomplished should not exist.
Yeah.
Even though they did that, Charlton.
That's a great point.
They did it against players. They didn't do it against machines.
Yeah.
They did it against players where they had to go to work every day and practice their craft.
Yeah. I think about the guys that did the game the way they wanted the game. The game was built to be a home run game. When people say the girls love the home run and all that stuff, and people love seeing the home run, and they build stadiums a little bit smaller so they can have more home runs hit, Big C, and we all know that's true. And whether it's a Barry Bonds or a Jose Canseco or Sammy Sosa.
Well, Charlton, think about this.
Yeah.
The largest, gain in home runs in a single season was Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
when he went from 19 to 51.
Yeah.
And yet none of these purist writers that are voting for the Hall of Fame are saying that Babe Ruth was on anything.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, he hits an extra 30 home runs in a year.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden, he goes from 19
Yeah.
to 51, 54.
Yeah.
And somebody said, wow, you know, what a great leap.
Yeah.
You know, no one says, well, maybe, you know, that cocaine that he's using or those amphetamines that he's popping,
Yeah. Allegedly.
helped him out some kind of way.
Allegedly, yeah. I understand.
Excuse me, allegedly.
And you know, the most honest guy in the baseball universe was Jose Canseco, because he wrote a book and he turned dime on everybody. Maybe he shouldn't have done that, but they say the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. And when he told the truth, he got ostracized from the game. Big C, that make any sense?
Well, Johnson, because he hurt all these guys' feelings.
Yeah.
There were hope that it put pedestals underneath some of these players.
Yeah.
That, you know, their greatness was always going to be resounded in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
What they accomplished, because during the broadcast you could just hear them talking like nobody else
Yeah.
was on the field.
Yeah.
And Jose said, hold it, wait a minute. They're doing the same thing that I'm doing. We all meet up at the same doctor to get the same needle.
Yeah.
So you're going to tell me that I'm a bad guy because I got a great body?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this other guy with a great body is not a bad guy, and he got it through hard work?
Yeah.
He got it through a steel needle just like I did.
Hey, there was a commercial, allegedly, right, Pixie? There was a commercial of they had this weightlifter, and they were saying, you know, drink milk because milk's healthy for you. And they showed this guy who's kind of Eastern European look, and he's all buff, looking like the great Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he had a needle stuck in his arm, Pixie, for the TV commercial. I thought that was funny, but I know that I've known enough athletes that got bigger and stronger and faster and put on a lot of muscle, and we knew what they were doing. Because a lot of these guys, they shared needles before people were more smart about not sharing needles with the guy that's next to you. Big C, just a lot of dumb guys that have big, strong bodies, but they were sharing needles. And I want to just get your thoughts again on Barry Bonds. I know people say, well, he didn't win a World Series. I know not the Dodgers, but the Giants and the Anaheim Angels. And they had this rally monkey thing going on down in Anaheim. And the Giants were up. I think they were up in the 7th inning, and Dusty pulled his pitcher and they started going with the closers. And then they had a big rally down in Anaheim. But the Giants probably would have won the World Series that year. And they didn't lose because Barry Bonds wasn't doing his thing. He was still the best baseball player in the universe. And for them to shun him out of the Hall of Fame, I think at least the Giants are trying to have his back in this way. The year they thought he was going to get in, didn't get enough votes. They at least want to retire his jersey finally. I think that's the Giants' way of saying thank you and kind of, turn their nose to the Hall of Fame. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they're telling the Hall of Fame he deserves to be there.
Yeah.
You know, there was a sports writer that took a backhand slap at Terrell Owens for being elected into Pro Football's Hall of Fame, a guy named Whitlock.
Oh, really?
Works for that.
Knucklehead?
You know.
Yeah.
And you know, he's going to say something about Terrell Owens that,
yeah.
You know, maybe you'll be kinder to the guys in the Hall of Fame than you were to the players in the locker rooms that you were in.
Yeah.
You know, now Jason Whitlock, the only time he's been in a locker room, it was to walk in and gaze at other athletes. Okay?
Yeah.
That was it. You know, try doing a sit-up first before you want to talk about Terrell Owens.
Or at least pass a stress test, Well,
he sweats sitting there, and he looks like a black Rush Limbaugh sitting there.
He and Rush Limbaugh might go to the same gym.
Yeah. You know, but to him say to Terrell, I didn't vote for you and I wouldn't vote for you.
Yeah.
Because that's the selfishness and that's the underminingness of people of your own race, Charlton.
Yeah.
Dogging you like that, saying that, you destroy teams.
Yeah.
How does one player destroy teams? I mean, if he can say that Terrell Owens destroyed teams that he was with,
yeah,
he has to say the same thing about Bill Belichick, what he did on Sunday, that he destroyed the New England Patriots.
Yeah.
That's how low-minded that certain individuals are.
Yeah.
If they can say that one player destroyed a team,
yeah,
but yet they won't come back and say a coach destroyed a team.
Yeah.
Yes, Bill Belichick busted down the morale of the defense of the Patriots and they couldn't stop anybody.
Yeah.
But Terrell Owens, I always respected Terrell when I saw him play.
Yeah.
And even when I didn't see him play, because I always thought that if the rest of the teammates played at his level of intensity, that they wouldn't have lost games. But you could not find 11 10 other players on any offense that Terrell Owens was on that played with his level of intensity, whether he was in San Francisco, whether he was in Philadelphia,
Yep.
whether he was in Cincinnati, whether he was in Dallas, Charlton.
Yeah.
I could never find 11 other players that had that same level of intensity that Terrell Owens carried.
Well, a lot of times people do what's called hating. They hating on the brother Big C because they can't have what that brother has, and they can't play the way he played. He should at least go out and challenge him to the 40-yard dash if he's going to criticize him, at least Big C. But one of them would be more, prominent in the next couple of years, and the other one won't. Big C, you can figure that out. But at the same time, I appreciate what Barry Bonds has done, not only for the world of baseball. His father played the game of baseball. He saw how the media had a truculent relationship with his dad. The good and bad of those things happen when you're a young person, and as a person of color, you grow up in society and you see, unless you're just ignorant like some people, like that guy you just talked about, the Whitlock guy, Big C, they don't even know what the Kerner Commission is. I challenge them to Google it because they probably don't even know what it is. I would hope that he would Google the Kerner Commission when he starts to insult people, Big C. But again, Barry Bonds deserves to be in the Hall. Congratulations to the San Francisco Giants and finally putting his name there and retiring his jersey. I think it's going to be great for the whole city of San Francisco, and it could be another banner year for the San Francisco Giants. Big C, as we close out, I know in the NBA, we have the Warriors and OKC, we have Boston and Toronto, and we have teams that are jockeying for position. It's starting to get important now. And the Warriors, I know sometimes if you take something for granted, you tend to lose it. And I would say right now the Houston Rockets might be playing a little bit better basketball than Golden State. Golden State dropped 2 of their last 3 games. They lost, I think, twice to Denver. Doesn't make any sense. Or maybe the Jazz. I know they lost 2 games twice. But do you think they've lost a little bit of that edge that you need in order to win a championship, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you're talking about a 1-game series versus a 7-game series.
Yeah.
It's easy for a team to rise up because when you play the Golden State Warriors, you play your best. You showed up to play the champ.
Yeah.
You're not showing up to play some also-ran, low-ranking team in your division. You're playing this for respectability.
Yeah.
You beat the champs, all of a sudden you feel you have respectability.
Yeah.
But you beat them in a 1-game series.
Yeah.
Golden State is built to play 7-game series, Charlton. They will win a lot of 1-game series during the regular season, but they're built for the long run.
Yeah.
To get you out there and tire you out, to run you all over the court. You try to figure them out 7 consecutive games, you're not going to do that, Charlton.
Yeah.
You can figure them out for 1 game.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Yeah.
But to be able to do it, it's like fixing that perfect meal, making that perfect souffle.
Yeah.
If you're trying to make that perfect souffle 7 times in a row, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
That first one may be the best one that you make.
Yeah.
3 and 4 may flop on you.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you get in a 7-game series against the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah. Well, I hope that's the case because I love seeing the NBA championships out here in the Bay Area. Give me your thoughts on Boston and Toronto. Those are the 2 top heavyweights of the Eastern Conference in the NBA. And I'll be so glad when the commissioner decides to just seed the teams, from 1 to 30, and let's see who the top teams are in the NBA. If you're going to have 16 teams get in, just pick the top 16 and let 1 play 16 and then 2 play 15, and then we'll find a way. Because if you look at basketball, it's rare that you have it balanced across the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference, and it should be great to see the top 2 teams actually get to play, because that might mean that we will see a Houston and Golden State finals. I don't think that's too far-fetched to ask, because we got to find a way to keep evolving as a sports league. Big C, that make any sense?
Well, Charlton, when you look at Toronto and Boston, they're both separated by 2 games,
Yeah.
and they're going to be playing each other. And so if Toronto wins, they close the gap down to 1 game.
Yeah.
But when you look at these 2 teams, and they're both guard-led teams, you're going to get Kyrie Irving back tonight,
Yeah.
which will help solidify Boston's offense. But these are 2 teams that are playing head and shoulders above the rest of the East Division. It's amazing, as bad as Cleveland is playing.
Yeah.
A team that has lost 12 out of their last 20 games, Charlton, that they have more media coverage than the teams that are leading the
Yeah, they're
division.
winning.
You don't even hear about Toronto.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you keep hearing about Cleveland because everybody is waiting on Cleveland to wake up.
Yeah.
Cleveland will make the playoffs. They're not in a panic mode.
No.
They're going to make the playoffs, and that's where they'll tell anybody.
Yeah.
You got to beat us 4 out of 7.
Yeah.
You might beat us on a every other night basis during the regular season.
Right.
But you got to beat us 4 out of 7 during the regular season. And we've seen in the last 3 years, only the Golden State Warriors have been able to do that.
Yeah.
So I don't think that Cleveland is in a panic mode like all the media people say that they are.
Yeah.
I think that with Boston and Toronto beating up on each other, Charlton,
Yeah.
trying to establish first and second place, Charlton, I think that's a little meaningless, just like saying that Houston might be better than Golden State.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many teams you've seen during the regular season
Yep.
be the champion, but in a playoff series, they can't get it done.
Yeah, they can tend to come back down to earth. Let me ask your thoughts on teams that are trying to finish last. You know, we talk about teams that want to be in first place and get into the playoffs. What's your thoughts on teams tanking to try to get a higher draft pick? When I saw the Chicago Bulls, a once mighty proud organization, blow a 20-point lead on the road to the Sacramento Kings, a team that's near the bottom of the NBA. And I just wanna get your thoughts. Is that even plausible that we have teams trying to tank so they can move up and get a college kid and better themselves in the draft pick? See that make any sense? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's the second time this week that they've blown a 20-point lead. And, you know, the tanking has always been a part of professional sports. But the NBA has kind of put in safeguards to try to protect against that with the lottery system that they have where they use the ping pong balls.
Yeah.
You know, with the worst record that you're not guaranteed the first pick, you might have the highest odds.
Yeah.
But you're not guaranteed that pick.
Yeah.
But, you know, I still haven't understood, you know, in the history of sports.
Yeah.
Why do you think a particular college player is going to make you any better?
I know it.
When we look at the top 2 players drafted last year in the NBA, the Falk kid out of Washington who went to Philadelphia, and the Ball kid out of UCLA that went to
the Lakers,
Los Angeles.
Yeah.
What are the records of those 2 teams?
Bad.
You know, you have to look at that. Is either one of those teams been elevated into the playoffs because they drafted those players? No, they aren't, Charlton. And so when you think about that, you know, it's like with Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
You know, everyone raves about Michael Jordan winning 6 NBA titles.
Yeah.
No one talks about the 6 times he was defeated trying to get to the finals.
Yeah.
When Larry Bird and other players were playing in the Eastern Conference.
The bad boys, yeah.
No one remembers that.
Yeah.
The ones that he didn't make it to the finals.
Yeah.
They will always talk about him getting to the finals, but they won't talk about him not getting to the finals because he was knocked out in earlier rounds. It's like Joe Montana.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about, you know, the 4 Super Bowls that he was involved in with the 49ers.
Yeah.
Okay? Undefeated. No one talks about the 2 times he was knocked out of the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
Not making it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So to take it during a season as an NBA team, thinking that some young kid out of college who was 19, 20 years old is all of a sudden going to be the savior of your franchise?
Yeah.
Magic Johnson is not showing up again, Charlton.
I tell you what, man, Larry Bird's not showing up. Isaiah Thomas, a lot of them good old boys. But we love the way the sports world works because you get the chance to earn it. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bundini Brown. He was Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you've got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, we got 2 days left in this week as far as the NBA is concerned for that trade deadline. Will there be any significant names moved come Thursday in that trade deadline that will change the track of the season for some NBA team?
Well, Big C, we shall see. And you can also see every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. You can follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any woman going through that garbage, please call 911 because no woman should ever have to deal with that garbage on her own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.